So, this time last year, I was navigating the end of a 7-year relationship. And along with it, the vision I had for my family. I was raising young children. I didn't know where I was going to live and felt like everything was falling apart. And I had to just completely rebuild my life from the ground up while also trying to figure out if this business was going to survive this kind of reckoning I was having in my own life, if I had the capacity to hold all of it. And if you are in your own version of what some call the dark night of the soul, this video is here to remind you that good things are still possible. And this week's astrology is reflecting the good available to us in this moment. We are going to walk through all of the transits for the week of June 7th, 2026. I'm going to share what my own upcoming solar return is teaching me about receiving after a hard season. And we are going to talk about how to actually let the good things in, even when there's a part of you anxiously bracing for the catch. So, this week features what many astrologers have been calling the most beautiful, lovely transit of the year, the Venus Jupiter conjunction in Cancer. And, astrology content tells you the symbolism and what it means, but it doesn't always tell you what it feels like to live through it. And what I've noticed is that when I'm sharing with my clients that a positive transit, there's a lot of potential here is coming up for them, it can trigger just as much as anxiety as kind of getting prepared for the more challenging transits. There's this FOMO, this grasping, this desperately trying to make the most of a good moment in the year or in a time period. And then there's also this bracing for what happens when the good thing ends. And I just want to let you know this is totally natural response. This is nothing wrong with you. This is a part of our human condition. We really desperately want to hold on to what feels good and we want to push away what feels bad. And the astrology reminds us that life ebb and flows. It's in a constant turning. A change is the only constant, right? And, through my really challenging period that I have experienced over the past year or so, I've been tapping into Pema Chodron's work and really embracing groundlessness that is life and letting the, the ever changing nature of our world, of our experience, be something that is both a comfort, the hard times are not going to last forever, and also a way to really just appreciate each good moment, knowing that it's also not going to last forever. And I am also going through my midlife transits. There are some outer planet transits that hit everyone that is lucky enough to reach a certain age between, late 30s and mid 40s. You get this series of outer planets and they can activate so much uncertainty and revelation about your relationships, your identity, your life purpose, whether the work you've chosen is right for your soul path. And what I've been really deepening into is that this ever changing nature of our lives, of the universe, is an invitation to fully receive what is here right now. So I just wanted to bring that in before we dive into the transits, because if you're feeling anxiety, like you have to make the most of this beautiful transit we're receiving, know that it's not going to be the last beautiful transit that comes our way. It's not going to be the last opportunity to experience joy. And the challenges that come, later on are also here as a part of our full experience. All right. So let's break down the transits for this week. So on June 8th, we get our last quarter moon in Pisces. And this is a really lovely placement for the moon in Pisces, being ruled by that Jupiter getting ready to meet with Venus the very next day. So feeling into your intuition, into your creativity, into the healing that's available for you. And with that last quarter moon phase, this is a time to look back at any intentions you made at the Taurus new moon and asking what this process asked for you, what was healed, and start to release and let go. This is again this kind of non attachment that we are being invited into this week. And this is a releasing energy. There's spaciousness, there's non striving that can really hold a lot of magic in our businesses and our lives. And particularly in this final phase of the lunar cycle, noticing what's possible for you when you create that space, when you start to let go, when you decide you don't have to push, push, push all the time. Sometimes magic just appears in those moments. A new client, a new opportunity. All right. So then June 9th, dun, 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 Venus conjunct Jupiter in Cancer. This is happening at, let's see, 25 degrees of Cancer. And again, one of the most lovely transits of the year. It's really heart led, it's abundant. There's this emotional generosity, this warmth. And so for spiritual entrepreneurs, for coaches, for folks who are in the healing business, this is a really beautiful opening to invite in new clients, new collaborations, and feeling into the abundance that's all around you. Let good things in. Do it consciously. Invite that in. One thing to watch for with Jupiter and Venus coming together is too much of a good thing. You can get a little bit like feeling like you can do anything and then realizing that you've taken on too much. So really, feel into that abundance and also respect your boundaries as well. So also on June 9th, maybe this is where that boundary check comes in because Mercury will be squaring Saturn. And this is happening at 12 degrees of Mercury in Cancer and Saturn in Aries. And that's that reality check arriving the same day as you're really opening up to the abundance of the earth and your business ecosystem. This is where you can start to get really intentional about your time, your money, and really feeling into the weight of your words and your thoughts and your plans. So this can be a good time to review contracts, commitments, and anything that requires that clarity and precision. So, don't let it be a total buzzkill to the Venus Jupiter conjunction, but it kind of feels like a nice counterbalance, honestly. All right. So then, same day, June 9th, busy day. The moon moves into Aries. So that can bring a little fire, a little initiation. Maybe you're really feeling like you want to take action on the opportunities that Venus and Jupiter is presenting you. And of course, the moon will then activate that Saturn Mercury square as the moon meets up with Saturn. So, you could feel like the abundance might actually kind of activate some stories around how much you can hold. And so this can be a good time to consciously expand your sense of capacity in your own body. You can do this with breath work. You can do this with dynamic movement, maybe letting your body get really big and see what that does to your kind of psychological, spiritual state, emotional state around your ability to hold more abundance. So June 11th, the moon then moves into Taurus. So now we can really start grounding this energy. We're slowing down, of course, as the moon is becoming darker and darker towards that new moon. That waning moon is deepening. So really tapping into that receptivity and let rest be strategic right now. I have been learning more and more how powerful rest is as a productivity tool, as counterculture, counterintuitive as that might sound. Probably not to this audience, you know what's up, but still, there's a lot of programming that tells us we have to constantly be going in order to make our businesses successful. And really, if you don't take the time to rest, to clear your mind, to just stare into nothingness, to hug a tree, then you are missing a huge portion of your creative potential. And when you take the time to rest, you return to the work so refreshed that those opportunities that maybe the Venus Jupiter has presented to you, or wherever those opportunities are coming into your world, all of a sudden your perception has opened up so much wider that you can now receive those. Okay, so June 12th, we have Venus square Chiron, and this is happening at the final degree of these signs. So Venus is at 29 degrees of Cancer, Chiron is at 29 degrees of Aries. And so there is healing that I think is still surfacing from maybe you did get this really amazing opportunity that came up for you, around this Venus Jupiter conjunction. And that triggered this worthiness story that maybe was a wound from your childhood or your past life. So there might be either consciously or in our body, subconsciously in our dream life, this story around, I don't deserve this. Or there might be grief that comes up for how long it took to finally receive what you've been asking for. And this is a moment to make space for healing around those old stories that have kept you from fully stepping into what is good in this world, what is possible in your business. So again, we're in this waning moon phase, Taurus moon, and Venus is now squaring Chiron. And so this is a time to rest, to make space for integration, to hold with compassion those stories, that grief that is surfacing now. So it's this both and experience. There's good in the bad and bad in the good. So even as we have this beautiful Venus Jupiter conjunction, it can surface things for us. And that is also part of our journey, right? Okay. So finally, June 13th, we have Venus entering Leo. So this is a big vibe shift in our relationships and as spiritual entrepreneurs, our business is all about relationships, and Venus is how we receive and connect. And so we're shifting from this real inner experience of Cancer where we're holding close and intimate relationships, and now we're moving into the warmth of Leo's outward radiance. And this is a time for you to celebrate yourself unapologetically. So you've done that healing work with the Venus square Chiron, and now you're ready to just step out. And when you do that, you are modeling for your clients, for your audience, for your loved ones, what joyful self expression looks like. And when you do that, you give others permission to do the same. So, really feeling into what happens when you let your gifts be fully visible, fully seen, and the kind of warmth you create around you that people naturally want to come and be in your orbit. And the beautiful thing about Venus and Leo, it's like, it's not just about celebrating yourself, it's about celebrating the people around you. That's one of Leo's beautiful gifts. And so this is great for the coaches out there, for the people who are really uplifting their community, their clients, their audiences. This is a great time for you to get playful, to celebrate, to experience joy, and let that be your how you expand your business, how you bring in more soul aligned clients, how you bring in a wider audience just by being unapologetically, joyfully your truest self. Okay, and so on the same day, June 13th, Mercury enters its what's called retro shade. So we're not to the retrograde yet, but we're bookmarking this moment because Mercury will be at 16 degrees of Cancer. And that is where it will make its final station after the retrograde period. So, whatever comes up today in terms of the words you're hearing, the conversations you're having, what's, happening in your business, know that this is going to circle back over the next several weeks. So, just taking a note, what flags your attention. Do some journaling and just know that you are beginning a story, you're beginning a project that will need revision. So just being okay with that and holding things loosely. And then finally, we're in the balsamic moon phase on June 13th as Gemini, the moon moves into Gemini. And, next week we're going to be talking about the new moon in Gemini, which will happen on June 14th. So, as you're in this closure period of the lunar phase, be curious about what you learned this past lunar cycle, who you made connections with, how you were communicating your message. These are all Gemini themes that we can then bring into the new moon that we will go into on next week's Planetary Pulse. So, I just want to share a little bit more about what's happening for me this week. I am stepping into my solar return. June 11th is my birthday. And so this Venus conjunct Jupiter happening 2 days before, it's kind of activating this new year that I'm stepping into. I'm moving into what's called a Jupiter profection year. Uh, and so I'm intending to work with Jupiter as a teacher over the next 12 months. And, after this season of loss and grief and struggle, I'm really in this place where I'm stepping into um, a new phase. And that Jupiter Venus conjunction feels like, again, not something that I'm overly attaching to, but something I'm receiving as a gift. And so, what I want for you, whatever your hard season has looked like, if you are emerging or you're right in the heart of that hard season, I just want to speak to you from the other side that good things come again. You're not going to be there forever. And there are spiritual resources available for you now. Nothing lasts forever, including the hard parts. So celebrate those little moments of peace and healing and support to help guide you through those difficult moments. All right. If this video landed for you, if you are in a season of trying to figure out how to keep going, how to build a business that really is aligned for you and supports you, how to use the cycles of the sky to support your work rather than just feeling like you're struggling through it, I would love for you to come join us in the Boss Witch Collective on School. It's free to join. And when you do, you get immediate access to my Moon Magic to Grow Your Sacred Business 3-part mini training I created specifically for healers and coaches who are building sacred businesses and want to use the moon cycles as a sacred and strategic tool. So the link is in the description. Come find your people, and I will see you in there.